Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Aron Baynes.
There you go, sir.
Thanks for that.
No worries, bud.
G'day. How's it going? Everyone good? I'm happy to be here. Here we go.
Aron, welcome to Springfield, man.
Cheers, thank you. First time out here for me. How about you guys?
First time?
First time?
Anyone first time? Hands up. Did you guys all drive in together, Aron? You and all these people? Did you drive in together?
Took a big bus.
Took a big bus.
Must have been the train.
I gotta give it to you. Before we start, he walked in wearing a Lowell Spinners cap. You want to talk about someone who is all in on Boston sports culture. That is a Lowell Spinners cap, so cheers to that, my friend.
I mean, yeah, I like the minor league teams. It's kind of an icebreaker. People always ask me, what team is that? What logo is that? So, you know, something to start a conversation with.
Absolutely love it. So before we get into your career, which has been, in my estimation, one of the most fascinating hoop odysseys in the NBA, I want to ask you about this moment for you. Of all the places you've been, of all the countries you've played, the fact that you only started playing basketball 16 years ago, talk about the last hour touring the Basketball Hall of Fame, your first time here, and now sitting at center court with all of these people who showed up just to hear you. Can you put that into context for me?
It's unbelievable, you know. It's crazy walking around here and seeing not only people that I've looked up to since I started enjoying the game of basketball, but people who I've played with, you know, people that I'm countrymen with. It's awesome to see that they're honored in this type of situation, and that we have something like this to honor not only the game of basketball, but everyone who contributes to it.
Now, I mentioned that you had only started playing when you were 15, 16 years old. Before that, as so many of the guys you grew up with, you're a rugby player. What was that moment like when your older brother introduces you to Dr. Naismith's hoop, and you're like, oh, this is happening? What was that like, your earliest memory of learning the game?
Yeah, like you said, I had younger brother syndrome, so whatever my brother did, I thought I could do it better. And he picked up a basketball, and I was like, you know what, I can beat him at that. So that's what I wanted to do, and as soon as I picked it up, I enjoyed the game. I loved the game. It was something that I changed schools immediately so I could keep playing basketball. I wanted to start playing basketball, really, and that's what I did. I moved an hour away. I moved out of home and went and lived with my auntie, and yeah, that was just also I could play this game that I'd just been introduced to because I loved it so much. I didn't know where it would lead me, but I knew I was having fun, and that's all I wanted to do.
That's really fascinating. And you say you have younger brother syndrome, which means you always feel like you could do something better than your older brother. Let me ask you this. I don't know if he's watching. Is your older brother in the NBA? He's not.
He's still better, though, according to him.
Is he? You're a good younger brother. So because once you find this game and things are going really well, obviously you're one of the most talented players in the world. The NCAA in America is very different than the system in Australia and New Zealand. So you have to, you mentioned, move away to go to the Australian Institute of Sport, to start to study, to learn basketball, to play basketball, to get ready for that next step. Can you explain the difference, because then you also played in the NCAA, can you explain the difference between the Australian and most of the rest of the world? Europe has the same system, Canada has the same system. The NCAA is a bit of an anomaly. What is it like to have to enroll in a place like the Australian Institute of Sport to then attempt to go on in the NCAA?
Yeah, so it's actually not somewhere you can actually enroll in at the Institute of Sport. It's something that you have to be selected for. And when I was there were 12 players out of our country selected every year. Some people stayed in that program for 3 years, but there was only 12 guys every year. And I hadn't been playing for that long. I didn't have a very good game at all, to be honest. I was lucky to be able to catch the ball most times. So, you know, there was a lot of potential is what they got me into that program for. And one of the biggest differences for me growing up was we didn't have that many teams to compete against. You know, sure. You have the AAU here where you'll have eight teams from one town. and they were all playing games. So we used to practice more than anything. We'd practice practice 8 times to every game we played.
Wow.
Whereas over here, I see a lot of it is, they play 8 games to every one practice they have. So that was one of the biggest differences. Traveling, we traveled a lot more to try and get this level of competition.
Now, in 2006, you come to the States and end up at Washington State. You accept the scholarship to play at Washington State. What was, because of your transition, what was the recruitment like?
Well, I was in the Institute of Sport after Andrew Bogut had been there. And so, he being selected #1 in the draft, everyone was coming down trying to find another Andrew Bogut. And unfortunately, it was just me down there. So, there's, I got recruited by a few colleges over there. And I knew I wanted to play at a college that was a good level and I wouldn't be recruited over because I was still developing. And so, that's why I narrowed it down to Washington State, and I signed sight unseen. So that was a bit of a reality check when we were flying in. They said we're landing, and all I was seeing was Wheatfield. I was kind of like, where are we landing? But it was. I loved my time at Washington State, and I was enjoyed playing for the Cougs.
But the Palooza was a little bit, when you see the Palooza for the first time, that felt, you're not in Kansas anymore, right?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to Kansas from what I've heard. So.
So in 2009 to 2013, you put together an excellent European career. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about something we talked about, you and I and a few others back there. Your dunk contest victory in Lithuania. You mentioned that was several inches of vertical ago.
I don't know, several, maybe a couple.
All right, okay, I'll take that. What was, at that point in your life, at that point in your career, what was that like playing in Lithuania when you were a high-flying young player that was getting up and throwing down? Was that something that you would like to get to again, or are you content being the guy that you are in the NBA right now?
I'm definitely happier now with my basketball skill set than I was back then. I'm still developing, still trying to work on things, but I was still very raw there. I think I developed a lot in my time in Europe. However, it wasn't immediate, so bypassing those days is not too bad. I mean, I did win the dunk comp. I'm not sure how many other guys I was competing against that were really high flyers. I did have to jump over a few people. I did the honey dip. I did a few other things. So
you mentioned
it wasn't too bad.
There was 8 rounds you mentioned. Like that's...
It was. It just kept going. It was funny. We were talking on YouTube. They have about 3 or 4 dunks, I think. But there were so many that I was running out of options by the 6th. I was like, just hopefully they don't notice this one again.
It's attrition. People are like, you know what, we're good. You give it to Baynes. I love the way that your first NBA contact comes with the Spurs. In many ways, the Spurs in 2013 are the perfect fit for Aron Baynes. You had, of course, been in Slovakia and Lithuania. And the San Antonio Spurs of any team in the NBA feels like the most international organization. What were those conversations like with Pop and the brass of San Antonio to convince you that the NBA was right at that time in your life?
That was one of the things when I was in Slovenia, actually. I was playing over there, and I had a good EuroLeague season, but we didn't make it into the next round. So I was kind of talking to a few different teams, and I think there were 4 or 5 teams I was talking to, and then San Antonio came, and I was like, okay. That was it. That was the end of the conversation. As soon as they said they wanted me to come there, I knew it was the perfect place for someone like me.
Yeah.
What they've done with international players in the past, their track record was amazing. And then being under the tutelage of Greg Popovich. And it was funny, my first basketball coach, the first day I walked into there, he told me to sit down, watch as much Tim Duncan as you can and try and emulate him. And here I am sitting in the locker room opposite Tim Duncan. That was a bit of a pinch yourself moment for me as well.
Yeah, and I think so much, with international players, rookie years are very different because you weren't 22 and coming in with wide eyes. You had seen some stuff. You have carried your own bags in other countries. So can you talk a little bit about your first day in the locker room knowing, and everyone in that locker room, they understand they've had European rookies there before, the Parkers and the Ginobilis. They know what it's like to have a guy who's seen some things So what was your first night like in the locker room for you in the NBA? Was it different?
It was one of those things where I just sat back and just soaked it in. To be honest, it was like you said, it was such an eclectic mix of nationalities. There was French, Spanish, with the few Australians we had there. We were throwing around a few slang words and trying to just hang out and having a yarn. It was awesome just being there and then knowing what level of program I was coming into at the time. It was an exciting time for me, and I still look back very fondly at.
I like that you guys were trying to Aussie up the joint a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. After San Antonio, well, let's not skip San Antonio because that's where the title comes. I'm just going to gloss over the NBA title. Yeah, just and then this title happens, and let's get to Detroit. Yeah. Talk to me about the moment. You had already won a Lithuanian title. You were one of the highest recruits out of your nation in Australia. Talk to me about how now you think about that title in 2014. That group of guys, what was that experience like finally getting to touch the NBA trophy?
That was very surreal. Even now, I think back to that, and I'm just honored to be able to have been a part of that group. It was one of those perfect storms. I think losing the game 6 and 7 in Miami the year before that, it fueled us as a team, and we were locked in from the moment that season started, and it was pretty exciting for us. Everyone always asks me, where's my ring? But I forget I actually had the ring. I'd look back on the memories more than anything. And, I think I have photos around the house of that. And, it's something that's pretty special. So.
Detroit after that. You signed with Detroit, and your career is officially 100%. You are an NBA veteran at that point. What changes from the system in San Antonio to the way things felt in Detroit, and how did that help your game improve yet again?
One of the biggest differences, San Antonio had been established for 20 years at that point. The program was at the highest level, and it's still right there. And Detroit was a rebuilding phase. I knew going in there, understand what we were trying to do is get back to the playoffs, and that was the end goal for us as a team. And we were able to actually get back to the playoffs in one of the years, and the next year a few things happened and we didn't. But that was a big difference for me. Was I went from being one of the youngest guys on the team in San Antonio to being the second oldest in Detroit. So guys started looking to me as to what I was doing, and I was lucky because in San Antonio I was under Tim Duncan and Manu and Tony and Boris, and those guys had a routine, and that's what I learned from them, and I tried to emulate it as best I could, and that's how I tried to lead in my time in Detroit as well. Just through my routine, it was a daily effort of always doing the right thing, always staying locked in, and that was what I learned in San Antonio.
Now here's the part that I told you about. I only have 3 questions left for Aron Baynes. After that, it's your turn. So start thinking now about a question you might want to ask him. And after this next question, I'll ask for volunteers. You can put your hands in the air. The great Hoop Hall staff will recognize a handful of you and put you in a line to my right, your left, and you will have that opportunity. So now, all the green in the audience tells me that the next decision you make in your career is their favorite. Can you talk to us about the courtship after Detroit, after San Antonio? You've got a ring. The courtship between Danny and your people. What was it like knowing that the Boston Celtics were knocking on your door at this stage in your career?
Yeah, it was something that I was excited to be a part of. I'd seen what they had done the year before, and unknowingly, I wasn't sure how much of a roster change it was going to be last year when I actually signed. I knew there was going to be a few different faces, but I didn't know it would be 11 new faces. So, it was exciting, though. I just knew what they were in pursuit of, and they were taking the right steps towards getting there. And, they had already had Al for a year, and Al's a great player and is also a great leader of the team as well. And then they picked up Gordon, and then me, and then they picked up another guy, I think Kyrie.
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Something like that. So no, it was, they made a few different moves last year, but when I saw that roster coming together and they approached me, I was definitely eager to be a part of it because I wanted to get back to a contender. To me, playing basketball, it's all about if you can still play in June. And that's what I wanted to get back to, and that's why I'm excited to be here. We were so close last year, but, we're getting a few healthy pieces back, and it's going to be a fun one this year.
It's going to be a blast. Do you have a question for Aron Baynes? Raise your hand right now. One of the great Hoop Hall staffers will come along and put you into the line. I want to talk about managing expectations, because that seems to be, now, I'm not in that locker room, obviously. It'd be weird if I was. You're like, how did he get in here? It strikes me that at this point in the building process, the most important piece is managing expectations, making sure with a locker room full of veterans, with a locker room full of guys who have been there before and done things, that it's all about making sure the cart doesn't get put ahead of the horse. What is that like as a player, someone who's reached the pinnacle before, to have to try to always remember that the next game is the most important?
Like I get back to in San Antonio, I learned that, it's a daily routine. It's a daily focus. You aren't looking down the road for 2 months or playoff time. It's about what you can do here and now, and what are you going to put out on the floor tonight to try and make the best impact on the future of your team. And that's what we were able to do well over the course of last season. Was no matter what happened, there was some ups, there were some downs, and we were able to move on as a group. And whenever anyone was called, they stepped up and they knew exactly what they needed to do for the team. Another big part of that is also limiting outside noise. For me personally, and I know a lot of the guys on the team, we don't care what's said outside of it. We try not to make too much noise ourselves either. We're just focused on what we're doing as a group. And if you maintain that inner focus as well, then everything else usually goes the right way for you.
Aron, my last question for you is probably going to be the easiest one, because the hard ones are coming. Those guys over there throw the fastballs. Playing for Brad Stevens versus playing for Popovich. Can you talk about, they're at very different stages in their career. I think Pop can still go I hope he can go for another 20 years. The game needs him, loves him. It's better because of him. Talk about what you see in Coach Stevens that maybe you think can also last for 25 more years.
Yeah, definitely. I thought you were going to say what was the biggest difference between the two. That's easy, age, but no.
I was going to make a hair joke, but I got nothing.
No, one of the biggest things about Brad is his emphasis of daily improvement, and it doesn't necessarily need to be on court. You don't need to do something physical. You can learn the game, become a student of the game.
Cool.
And that's what he does a really good job of, he and his staff. The amount of video that they have available to us, it's all for us to go out there and reach out to them, but they are big proponents of us learning the game, and they want us to watch different aspects of the game, not just enjoy the game to watch, but understand what's happening in the game and what this situation means and what would we do if we were put in that situation. So, I think because he is such a good teacher of the game of basketball, that everyone that plays under him gets better as a basketball player as well. So that's something that will allow him to continue to thrive for a long time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Aron Baynes. So I hope you didn't think I was joking, because I can tell just by looking at them, these are going to be hard questions.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. All right, so I only have 2 requirements for people who are going to ask, and come on up if we'll take the first question. I ask that you let me hold the microphone and that you introduce yourself to Mr. Baynes before you ask your question. We got a deal? All right, then proceed.
Hi.
How's it going?
Great.
So go ahead and introduce yourself and ask your question.
My name is Ben.
Right, good to meet you, Ben.
That was amazing, Ben. What's your question?
What's the best part about playing basketball?
Oh, what's the best part about playing basketball? So I've traveled a lot, all over the world, and one of the best things about playing basketball is the friendships I have from playing basketball. It's kind of an inbuilt friend network. When I get to a new place, there's people that I have something in common with that I can hang out with and, enjoy my time doing things with, but also I've maintained a lot of relationships with people that I have played with previously.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben. Great question. Have a good day.
Thanks, mate.
All right, come on up.
Hi. My name is Madison.
G'day.
And what advice would you give to someone who plays center like myself?
Oh, what advice would I give to someone who plays center? I think one of the best things for development for me was I always played against someone better than me. And so, you know, a lot of friends I had when I first started playing basketball were always better than me. And so I always tried to put myself against them, finding someone that you can always play with constantly and just work together on different things. It gives you more fun while you are working out, doing those long hours in the gym. But yeah, that would probably be the best advice. Find someone to do it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madison.
No worries.
Well, I like the hustle. That was nice.
Hi, my name is Colin.
G'day.
How many points did you average last year?
I have absolutely no idea. I know some people look at their stats, but to be honest, I have not looked at those stats, so I'm not sure. I think that's a Googleable question anyway. So.
Thanks, bud. I bet you can have the answer by the time you get to your seat. Thanks. Have a great day, bud. That's a great answer. You can.
Hi, my name is Jackson. My question is, who was your role model growing up and why?
My role model, two people. Like I said, younger brother syndrome. So my older brother I always looked up to, but my mother was my role model. She worked 3 jobs when I was growing up. There was never anything that was too much for her to do for us. She gave us all the time that she could, and yeah. So there's throughout my career, throughout my life, if I've ever had to do something, no matter what it is, if a coach told me to run up and down hills for 3 hours in the morning, I always did it because I thought it was never as hard as what my mum did. So she would be my role model.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I hope she's listening.
Hey, Aaron, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Obviously, expectations are really high for the team this season. One of the things you do hear a lot, though, is with all these guys coming back from injury, there may not be enough shots going around. And now that you're a three-point assassin, you can speak to that, too. Is that something that's real, that's an adjustment, or is that sort of just a media thing that they make up?
You know, I think that's just a talking point. The best thing about playing on this team is the unselfishness that everyone has. We realize we're playing with some great playmakers. I mean, Kyrie's one of, if not the best playmaker in the league. Gordon's going to be coming back, who draws so much attention. These guys, when the shot's there, we all want them to take it because we have ultimate confidence that they're going to make that shot. But they draw so much attention. They're all about making the right play as well. And so whoever's out on the court is going to get the right shot at the right time, and that's something Brad preaches. And, you know, he's all about getting a great shot, not just a good shot. So I'm not worried about the number of shots. You know, it's probably still going to be around 88 possessions every game anyway. So we'll see what happens. And, yeah, we're just going to try and work for the right shot. That's a daily process of going out there and doing that.
Great, thank you.
Great. Here we go. Enter Sandman. The closer has entered the building.
Hi, my name is Nathan. Do you ever face criticism when you shoot a 3 and miss by like your teammates?
Do I ever face criticism? Well, luckily I only shot them briefly last year, so it wasn't a long time of facing criticism if I did. You know, that was one of the things. Like I said, whenever someone on our team shoots the ball, everyone believes that it's going to go in. It's not what everyone sees on court, it's what we see in practice. And we see guys working on these different shots. And anyone you go down the list, if they've taken that game and if they've taken that shot in a game, I've probably seen them make that shot over 1,000 times on court in a game situation at practice. So I have faith that they're going to make it. And for the most part, they believe that I'm going to make my shot as well, which is a good thing. And, you know, I think I definitely face a lot more criticism on social media, but I'm pretty good at blocking that out anyway. So
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, bud. Ladies and gentlemen, one last round of applause for Mr. Aron Baynes.